And I am live. Hi, my name is Tyriece Simon, and this is the MMA Renegade podcast recap part two. First of all, part two, recapping UFC Vegas 27, Rob Font versus Cody Garbrandt. Me writing solo to get today. Again, if you watch part one, I explained that one, Elijah Jones, his birthday this weekend, so shout out to Elijah. And then two, he's also finished his last day of classes, so we'll see if he graduates and moves on. So he's taking the night off, he's celebrating, and I am here to recap UFC Vegas 27. I recapped Bellator, which you go watch back in the part one episode, and this is going to be part two. Before I get into anything, I want to say like, share, subscribe. If you like what you hear, please say something in the comments, and please let us know in the comment section. Also, if you feel one way or the other about UFC Vegas 27, which I'll get into in a second, please say so in the comment section. I greatly like to hear your responses to it and your overall thoughts on the card, your grade level for it. Usually, I give it a grade from I don't really go to D or F, but like maybe a C to an A plus card. So please let me know what your thoughts are on this card, UFC Vegas 27. All right. Now that that's out of the way, and sorry I'm gonna be sweating like a motherfucker because it's super hot outside. Now that's out the way. Rob Font defeats Cody Garbrandt by unanimous decision. Rob Font, number 3 in the world. Cody Garbrandt, number 4 in the world. The bantamweight division is tied up with Aljamain Sterling as champion. Peter Yan likely getting a rematch. You got Tito Dillashaw and Corey Sandhagen linked again to fight in July. I think Jose Aldo might fight somebody in the lower rankings. So there's a lot of moving parts in the bantamweight division, which I'll talk after discussing the Rob Font and Cody Garbrandt on where these pieces may lie and what may be in store for Cody Garbrandt and Rob Font. But speaking solely on this win for Rob Font, man, I thought the Marlon Moraes win was the biggest win of his career, and it still may be. But this is also a really, really good showing from him as well, and may be just, if not, it's not his best, his second best. I thought Rob Font did an excellent job sticking to his game plan, using his jab, using his feints that would eventually catch up to Cody Garbrandt, and we'll talk about Cody Garbrandt and the role he played in this fight. Rob Font showed a lot of his skill sets in this fight. He showed his striking, he showed his jiu-jitsu, he showed his grappling, he showed his toughness. He got caught with a bunch of shots in this fight, and yeah, he is a legit threat in this bantamweight division. There are some things that I thought were interesting on his part, which we could talk about now. I thought at first when I was watching this fight, and I had Rob Font winning this fight by knockout, but he won by decision. But at first, I thought it was a tale of two fighters, right? Sorry, I thought that in the first part of this fight, maybe the first round or so, when I thought that Rob Font would be more reserved and pick his shots and eventually find his way to Cody Garbrandt, it was the other way around. Cody Garbrandt was kind of finding his shots and picking his shots a little bit, and Rob Font was being a little not wild, but a little more aggressive in this fight. I kind of thought roles would be reversed. I thought Garbrandt would be the one aggressive, and I thought Rob Font would be more calculated and find his shots in the fight. And it turned out the opposite. And I thought it was an interesting dynamic because where Rob Font was in the beginning of this fight was where Cody Garbrandt was during his run to the championship, and may have even cost him the championship against Tito Dillashaw. there was a lot of shots, punches that Rob Font threw, which were, somebody probably could have taken advantage of the way he was just being aggressive, throwing his shots, overextending himself a little bit, which Garbrandt was able to capitalize a few times and catch him. He's also able to use his grappling and find positions there. But it wasn't until maybe the second round where I feel like Rob Font kind of dotted back a little bit and started to work his jab again. And then we started to see Garbrandt kind of fall into a trap of his own. I think that's the best way of saying it. And I called Elijah during the fifth round because by the fifth round, I thought Rob Font clearly has won all four rounds up against Garbrandt. And I called Elijah, and one of the things I asked him was, what was the best version of Cody Garbrandt? And I asked you, the viewers, the people that's watching this on VOD, the people that may tune into this now, the subscribers, I asked you, what was the best version of Cody Garbrandt that we've seen in the UFC? Right? Was it the Cody Garbrandt that was aggressive, that was knocking dudes out? Let me see. Let's go Cody Garbrandt's record here. One of the best parts of doing this solo, if you kind of go in and check these things live. Cody Garbrandt before Dominic Cruz. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot his run. Thomas Almeida, the Thomas Almeida knockout, the Takeya Mitsugaki knockout, Augusto Mendez. Like his Marcus Bruno, like his road to the top was, being in your face, finding the knockout shots, and putting guys away. The next was that the best version you guys seen of Cody Garbrandt? Was the Cody Garbrandt in the last fight with Rafael Sunsao? Was that the best version of Cody Garbrandt, where Cody Garbrandt's a little bit more reserved, is finding his shots a little bit better, is mixing things up, where he did land that knockout against the fence against Rafael Sunsao? Was that the best version of Cody Garbrandt? I don't know where you guys land on what the best version of Cody Garbrandt was. For me, the best version of Cody Garbrandt is the one that won him the title. And that is his win over Dominic Cruz, which may be the best bantamweight performance in the UFC title fight we ever seen. I thought his victory over Dominic Cruz, if you was to look at that fight and by itself, you would think Cody Garbrandt was the best boxer, with the best foot movement, the footwork, the best head movement, calculated, technical, reserved, able to be aggressive but also not put himself in danger. That was the best Cody Garbrandt to me. And I felt like in this fight we were seeing two halves of it. We were seeing the Cody Garbrandt that was reserved and now that would wait and pick his moments to come in and find the shots, and we've seen the Cody Garbrandt that would try to be aggressive and try to go tit for tat with his opponent. And I feel like somewhere in between the Cody Garbrandt that is reserved and I don't want to say disciplined, but takes his time, more tactical, uses footwork, uses head movement, and picks his opponent apart, and the aggressive Cody Garbrandt. I feel like those two in between gave you the Cody Garbrandt win over Dominic Cruz, which was one of the best, in my opinion, the best performances in a bantamweight title fight we've ever seen. So what he did to Dominic Cruz, who was long, who was rangy, can take you down, can mix things up, for him to be able to hit Dominic Cruz, be on the outside, use his head movement, be able to still be aggressive and catch you with hooks and knock Dominic Cruz down and everything like that. That was the best Cody Garbrandt we've seen in the UFC. And I feel like we've never seen that Cody Garbrandt again. I feel like we've gotten hints. We got in parts of it. We've gotten to Cody Garbrandt that could be aggressive. We've gotten to Cody Garbrandt that could be, reserved and pick his moments. But we never got that one in the middle that could put all that together, right? And this was an example of that in this fight where Cody Garbrandt started off the fight using his footwork, picking his shots a little bit, using leg kicks, mixing in takedowns, and then we see Cody Garbrandt in the second, third, fourth, fifth round, kind of fall into the trap of being too reserved and looking for the one shot, trying to go tit for tat and not using his head movement, which again, to credit to Cody Garbrandt, he was able to take a lot of these shots well in this fight. And the question of does Cody Garbrandt still have a chin? I think he kind of proved that he still can take a punch and he still can take damage and wear it well and be able to keep going. Sorry, you may hear people in the background, but because it's nighttime, everybody's in the house. But I thought that. Yeah, I thought Cody Garbrandt, that we still haven't seen that best version of Cody Garbrandt since that Dominic Cruz win. And I don't know what needs to change. I don't know if it's just mentality. I don't know if it's just, maybe the cornerman. I don't know. And one of the things I thought was interesting was that he would, like the commentators, and I think it was Paul Felder, it was two things. One, it was how did the effects of COVID and the layoffs and the injuries play a factor into this loss to Cody Garbrandt. That is to be seen. That information will probably come out of what he was dealing with in training camp and stuff like that. Another thing was, I think it was either Paul Felder or Michael Bisping were pointing out the way he knocked out Rafael Sunsao. He kept trying to look for that. He kept trying to put his back against the cage and look for that overhand, the overhand left, I believe it was, to try to counter on Rob Font coming in. And he kept doing it over and over and over again. And then by doing so, he kept putting his back to the cage. And we were in the first round, he was using his foot movement. He was able to not stand still against Rob Font, who had the reach advantage. And who has power and who is probably the bigger fighter between the two. He was using footwork in the first round, and then after that, maybe the grappling took his toll, maybe the conditioning that he was in took his toll, but you started to see him more and more just relent and let himself put his back against the cage and try to look for that one shot knockout that he did against Rafael Sunsao, which the commentators kept driving home over and over and over and over again, that he was still one shot away, or he one punch from Cody Garbrandt could end it all, which I didn't think was true. And at least in this instance, and I thought he kept falling into the trap. He kept falling into the trap and kind of second guessing himself on what kind of version should he be. Should he be the version of that is reserved, that is picking his shots and waiting for the right moment, or should he be the one that should be aggressive? And I think somewhere in the middle of that is the best version of Cody Garbrandt, and that we have yet to see since the Dominic Cruz win the championship. And I thought that was very interesting. I thought that was very he was like even in the Dominic Cruz fight, Dominic Cruz would try to throw jabs and throw feints and try to get Cody Garbrandt guessing. Cody Garbrandt didn't bite on those. In this fight, Rob Font did a very good job of setting it up early, setting up the jab early, trying to let Cody Garbrandt know that I was there. And you could see a difference between round 2 to round 5 that Cody Garbrandt started to bite on everything that Rob Font did, and the damage and the wear that he had by being too reserved and second guessing himself, and just putting his back against the cage, trying to look for that one shot knockout. He started to take his toll on him. He started getting picked apart. The 1-2s by Rob Font did dividends in this fight. And And I just thought Cody Garbrandt was he just couldn't get out of his own head in this fight. He just couldn't get out of his own head. And I don't know what needs to happen for him to get back to that version that made him a champion. I don't know what can he do. I don't know if it's something that he can physically do. I don't know if it's something that he can mentally do. But that Cody Garbrandt is the world champion that could probably give Rob Font a lot of problems in this fight. But he was not able to pull that out, and I don't know if he can. See, that was my analysis on this Cody Garbrandt fight. Was just I just didn't see the same guy that got him to the championship. I didn't see the same guy that was able to mix all those things. I saw a guy that was caught between, the aggressiveness that got him to the belt, and then the aftermath of losing the belt and trying to change things and being more mature, but being more cautious, being more reserved. And then and then in the middle of that was the Cody Garbrandt that would have been, I think a little bit more challenging for Rob Font, because Rob Font did have moments where that Cody Garbrandt that defeated Dominic Cruz, if that guy fought Rob Font, I think it would have been a lot more competitive and a lot more interesting to see how Rob Font deals with the countering, deals with the movement, deals with the constant footwork of a guy that's not standing still, that's not biting on all the feints, that's not putting his back against the cage, that's constantly moving, constantly working, and can keep that up for 5 rounds. I thought that would have been a more difficult task for Rob Font. But for Rob Font's credit, Rob Font came in with a great game plan. Rob Font used his jab early. Rob Font was able to throw feints to throw Cody Garbrandt off. Rob Font also didn't fall into the traps. He didn't try to get into a firefight with Cody Garbrandt. He tried to, pick his shots, pick his moments when Cody Garbrandt would try to go against the cage, try to look for that overhand. Rob Font would take a step back, reset, and start it over again. He was cautious on instances that Cody Garbrandt could have looked for in the past. His aggressiveness, going to firefights, that was one punch knockout power. He was able to be reserved and pick his shots, and he ended up getting the victory. And then winning decisively, being able to just pick Cody Garbrandt apart. So that is, how many wins is that in a row? First for Cody Garbrandt, I would think this is a not a huge setback, but it definitely it brings his stock a little bit down. Right before this fight, he was talking about fighting Davidson Figueiredo at flyweight. Now that fight could still happen, but I would think he would need to win a little bit more consistently to be in consideration for a title fight in either weight class. I would think he would need to prove himself at flyweight now more than ever. There was question about whether he should get the title fight at flyweight to begin with. I think now he would have to win one in flyweight, so cut the weight to 125, and then cut the weight again to possibly fight for a title, or take 2 fights at flyweight to even get to a flyweight title. Which I think he can. I think he can cut the flyweight. And that he lost to Rob Font, he lost to Pedro Munoz, he lost to TJ Dillashaw twice. The win over Rafael Sunsao it was what it was, but man, I don't know where he goes from here. Probably, again, like I said, maybe the 125 is the right weight class for him and the right change. But it's more than just the weight class. It's the style. It's the style. I think if Cody Garbrandt could get to that Cody Garbrandt that could mix in those 2 elements of being aggressive, being able to get on the inside, but also being able to use his head movement, use his footwork, and not stand still, to be a moving target. And also if he mixing those takedowns. I thought the takedowns was a great addition to this fight. I thought it was a great game plan. It's just once the takedowns wasn't there, he didn't feel like I don't think he had a second gear to like, okay, what was next? if takedown don't work, what's next? And I think he got stuck. And then he was fighting himself against, like I said before, which I'm not gonna say again. But yeah, for Rob Font though, man, this he beat Marlon Moraes. Now beating Cody Garbrandt. He was ranked number 3. He's probably gonna stay number 3. You have Tito Dillashaw versus Corey Sandhagen in July. You have Aljamain Sterling still questionable to fight Peter Yan. My prediction, my thoughts, if Aljo is not ready to fight Peter Yan, let's say by the summer, let's say this because he has a neck. How the recovery is, who knows? They just out there. July or August. We pretty much got the events set up for the summer. I would not be surprised to see Rob Font either fight the loser of Dillashaw Sandhagen or be in the interim title picture and have the winner of course, Sandhagen and Tito Dillashaw be the next number contender after it's all said and done with either if Aljo can't come back in time, then you do Rob Font versus Peter Yan, and then you can reevaluate if Aljo is ready or not. You could do Aljo versus the winner of that, or you could do Corey Sandhagen and Tia Dillashaw. The winner of that gets to fight for the interim or maybe at that time undisputed championship. But I think Rob Font victory definitely puts him in line for a title shot. I would say more so than Corey Sandhagen. Even though Corey Sandhagen's win over Frank Edgar was impressive, I do think a win over Cody Garbrandt is more impressive, and it's the name of Cody Garbrandt that holds a little bit more weight at bantamweight. So I would put Rob Font ahead of Corey Sandhagen right now. And for Cody Garbrandt again, 125 may be the answer, but I just think it's not just that. I think even at 125, 125 is not gonna be easy either. There's people at 125 that will push him, and that will probably be faster, probably be may not be strong, but probably a little bit more faster, and will be more dynamic and not be in this and not just stand there. So I hope something changes. I hope that we can get that version of Cody Garbrandt again, and that is, this is not to diminish Cody Garbrandt or anything like that, but for him to be a champion again, that is the Cody Garbrandt that he's going to need to be. He's going to need to be the guy that can do it all, that can be aggressive in moments, that can be reserved and pick his shots and counter, that can use head movement, that can use his footwork, that can also mix in his grappling. Again, that's a great addition to his game plan. That Cody Garbrandt can be one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, but it remains to be seen. And that's pretty much that on that fight. It was a pretty much clear decision for Rob Font, and we'll see what they do from there. Moving on to the co-main event, I thought this was a great showing for Carla Esparza. Surprise, surprise, winning by TKO, defeating. I am going to butcher her name, so I'm not even going to attempt to try. Let me see. I'll Jan. I'll just say Jan. I'm not even going to try to butcher her name. But yeah, winning by TKO. Able to use her wrestling, get Jan to the ground. Jan really didn't have anything really to answer for on the ground. And had a hard time, trying to withstand the grappling of Carla Esparza, which I was surprised. I was surprised that it got to the ground that fast. I thought Jan would have, tried to not come in too close and try to slowly pick Carla Esparza apart from the outside. But she went right into Carla Esparza, and Carla Esparza accepted the challenge and took her down and controlled her there. And then we've seen that the difference in just grappling and just grounded pound of Carla Esparza compared to Jan. And she was able to get the TKO victory. Now she sets up right back in title contention, which if you have followed this show, if you followed this channel, I have talked about Carla Esparza and how, she was slowly, going from, outside the top 10, looking at, being, near like number 15 or so, well, way back, and how she lost to Joanna and how that fight affected her. And then she slowly she slowly got back. And not only did she get back, she also got back in you can look at Carla Esparza's career in the UFC in the last couple of years, and you could see the opponents that she had to deal with. Like, the UFC did her no favors in terms of matchups. They gave her all the difficult matchups they can throw at her. Tatiana Suarez was super big. And Cynthia Calvillo, Claudia Gadelia, they threw all the tough matchups at her, and she was able to withstand it and just keep going and keep trucking along. And with her perseverance and her ability to just grind and get better and improving her wrestling, improving and taking shots, but trying to find her way into a takedown. It's something to behold. Carla Esparza, if you look at her story, you look at how she won the championship. She beat Rose Namajunas to be champion way back before Rose Namajunas became Rose Namajunas. And then she runs to the buzzsaw that is, sorry, I'm sweating. She runs to the buzzsaw that is Joanna Jędrzejczyk. At the time, Joanna was the most scariest strawweight in that division. Sans that, she's probably one of the most scariest female fighters in MMA. And just because of how she would just pick opponents apart, and what she did to Carla Esparza to start her reign, like, many thought that Carla Esparza couldn't recover or couldn't get back because of it. It was such a one-sided loss to Joanna Jędrzejczyk that many thought that Carla Esparza couldn't get back and that she was a fluke as a champion. And Carla Esparza went up the road of taking losses and getting right back to it. Going from being a champion to outside of the top 10. To slowly but surely taking on fights and taking on opponents that probably she didn't need to take. I've said before that I thought that, and maybe in the last couple of fights, maybe even after the Michelle Waterson fight or before the Michelle Waterson fight, maybe after Alexa Grasso, I thought that the fight to make would be Carla Esparza versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk, the rematch. When Rose Namajunas won the champion, I thought Carla Esparza versus Rose Namajunas would have made sense. Now, surprise, the roles are reversed now, and Carla Esparza may go back to reclaim her title. But I've been talking about Carla Esparza and her, climb back into title contention, for a long time. And I'm happy to see her, take the tough matchups, take opponents that I think others would have a problem with or be reserved or be hesitant to fight. And she took those challenges and she just grinded from being outside the top 10 to getting into the top 10 to being in the top 5 to now being back at the title contention. That's something to be super proud of. So I'm very excited to see what they do with Carla Esparza next. It seems like they're not doing Weili Zhang versus Rose Namajunas next. It seems like they are trying to go with Carla Esparza or some other opponent, which I think is interesting. I would think Weili Zhang will get an immediate rematch, but it seems like they're switching gears a little bit, which again may be for the best. Maybe Weili Zhang deserves some time off, and then if you're able to get fans back in Asia, that's the fight where Weili Zhang should fight next. I think Weili Zhang should fight in Asia. I think that like to show her star power. Maybe you could probably do it in Singapore, somewhere outside the United States to show her level of star power. Because while you still have that, flaunt it, show it off, and give her that big, which I think they wanted to do when she was champion, make her and show off that she's a bona fide star. You could do that in her next fight, do it in her comeback fight. If you can't do that this year, Carla Esparza versus Rose Namajunas makes sense. That makes sense. And that's a storyline based there. Sorry, there's a storyline there. You know how I love stories. There's drama. There's Carla Esparza going back, to climb back. There's Rose Namajunas trying to avenge her loss. That fight makes sense. So we'll see what they do with that. Other fights on this card that I thought were interesting. Edmund Shabazian loses to Jack Hermanson. I thought the footwork and the striking of Edmund Shabazian was great early on, and then at some point, Edmund Shabazian started to engage and want to show off his grappling, and I think that was a downfall. I think once he fell into the trap of wanting to show that he has improved in that area of his game, was when it fell right into Jack Hermanson's hands. And there were moments where Shabazian was able to reverse positions on the ground, was able to get on top, but that just played more and more into Jack Hermanson's game, where it became more more an advantage of Jack Hermanson. And I thought Shabazian's best work was again standing up. I thought he was landing a bunch. May even hurt him in the first round, but once he engaged when the grappling, wanted to show that off, I thought that was the end. That was the end. And Jack Hermanson turned around in the second round, and then in the third round just was close to even finishing him. So it was a great win for Jack Hermanson, great comeback win. He's also I think he dealt with COVID as well. So it's interesting to see, how his condition is. I wonder if that played a role, like Cody Garbrandt, if that played a role in his fight back. But he looked good. He looked good, and hopefully, we'll see where Jack Hermanson goes from there. I would imagine he would fight either the winner of Darren Till and I think Darren Till is facing Derek Brunson. I would imagine he would fight the winner of that. Or I mean, if Robert Whitaker wants to fight, you could take that fight, or he could take the Paulo Costa versus Kenner. He has options. But I would definitely think he's maybe one or two fights away from getting back into that title conversation. So that was a very good win for Jack Hermanson. I wonder where Edmund Shabazian goes from here. I thought the Ricardo Ramos versus Billy Aljo fight was an entertaining fight. Ricardo Ramos wins via unanimous decision. Norma Durmaz defeated Felicia Spencer by split decision. I thought it was a good showing from Norma Durmaz. It's interesting that she wants to go back to 135, so we'll see what happens there. Amanda Nunes needs opponents at 145. That division is nothing without Amanda Nunes at this point. I think Dana White even said that he would be all for just abolishing that division at this point. So it is what it is there. Jarrett Vendera defeated Justin Tafa. I thought Jarrett Vendera had a great showing, a great first two rounds. I think the third round, the cut that he suffered in the second round started to play a role, and I thought Tafa was starting to get on the inside more. I was able to land a little bit more, but Jarrett, his striking was really, really good. His ability to throw head kicks as often as he did, his ability to had better output than Justin Tafa did. Like that was the big key in the whole entire fight, was just the output of Jarrett compared to Tafa. And it seemed like Tafa was just looking for that one shot, that one punch knockout, and Jarrett was just looking to just build up the accumulation of strikes. He was going to the body, he was going to the head with kicks. They do a couple of leg kicks in there. He would throw multiple punches while Tafa would throw one. And on the inside, Jarrett did a great job of throwing 1, 2, 3 on the inside, and Tafa would reply back with one, which I thought was the issue. Yeah, it was a great showing for Jarrett, and just see where he goes in the heavyweight division. Another great performance in heavyweight division was Ben Rothwell for defeating Chris Barnett by guillotine. I thought that Ben Rothwell, great showing on short notice. Chris Barnett is an entertaining guy, and I hope they keep him around in heavyweight division. I think give him a fight with a training camp, with a longer training camp. A planned opponent. I would love to see what Chris Barnett does, because he is an entertaining character, and I think he fits right in with the UFC in terms of just just a little bit more of pizzazz, a little bit more jazzmatazz, something to spice up the heavyweight division. I think he is entertaining, and I think he touched up Ben Rothwell, even though he was the shorter fighter. He did touch him up, and you have to be very impressed with his ability to escape certain positions on the ground, his ability to eat certain shots from Ben Rothwell, which those shots probably could have knocked anybody out at heavyweight, and he was able to take those shots, and he was able to land a little bit on his own. And he's an entertaining guy. I would love to see him again with a full training camp with a planned opponent, what he would do in the UFC. So I hope the UFC keeps him around, because I think they need more of that in the heavyweight division to bring more shine to the heavyweight division. And for Ben Rothwell, man, he just keeps doing the thing. I would love to see where Ben Rothwell goes from here. Maybe you give Ben Rothwell an opponent coming up in the heavyweight division. I know there's a couple of heavyweights that they have that could use it, could fight a Ben Rothwell and have that opponent, have an opponent like Ben Rothwell under their record, or for Ben Rothwell it's something to I don't know if he fought Sergey Pavlich, Chris Dukakis in the top 10. Blagoy Alvanov, I'm surprised he's still there. Marcin Tybura is still there. Alexei Olenek, Tom Espinal. Give him Tom Espinal. That's actually a good fight for Ben Rothwell. Give Ben Rothwell Tom Espinal. I don't believe they fought before. Let me see Ben Rothwell's record. Yeah. Yep. So he's lost to Blagoy Alvanov. He's lost to Marcin Tybura. Yeah, give him Tom Espinal. That'll be a good test for Tom Espinal to see where he's at in his progression and in the UFC heavyweight division. And also Ben Rothwell gives him a chance to get back to the heavyweight division, top 10. So that'll be a great fight. That's a great matchup to put together. What else on this card? Bruno Silva. I thought Bruno Silva had a great victory over Victor Rodriguez. Bruno Silva wins by knockout. Bruno Silva has won two fights in a row, 2 by knockout, I believe. Yeah, 2 by knockout. Love to see where he's going from here. Definitely an exciting flyweight to look out for. And the flyweight division is getting more and more intriguing and more and more interesting. The more flyweights we see coming into the UFC. You have Bruno Silva, you have Molina. I think in the last pay-per-view that we've seen, they have a lot of interesting flyweights in that division, which I'm excited to see where they go from here. Another exciting flyweight was David Durock, winning by submission, rear naked choke over John Calamo Rendoros. I hope I'm saying that name right. Again, you get that flyweight division is constantly growing, new challengers. So it's interesting to see where they go from here. And a year or so ago, we was talking about maybe getting rid of the flyweight division, and now the flyweight division is slowly becoming one of the most entertaining divisions in the UFC. Slowly but surely, you're seeing a lot more great fights and a lot of great promise and potential matchups in the flyweight division. That's going to make this make it a whole lot interesting. And I'm interested to see where they go from here. So good on the UFC for keeping the flyweight division around. Good on Davidson Figueiredo. Good on Henry Cejudo. And now the talent in the flyweight division is growing more and more. We're starting to see a lot of entertaining matches and a lot of great prospects coming in. So good to see that. And yeah, that was about it. Man. What would I say about this card overall? Overall, I thought this card was a It's not an A. It's not an A minus. I would say it's a solid B plus. I think if I gave the Bellator card a B plus, I would give this card a B plus. And I thought there were entertaining prospects on this card. I thought the main event, although unfortunate, it did deliver. We did see Rob Font put on a great performance. The co-main event, seeing Carla Esparza put on the performance that she did, that was impressive. Chris Barnett, that fight with Ben Rothwell was entertaining. The heavyweight fight in the main card between Jarrett Vendera and Justin Tafa was a great fight. Billy Aljo versus Ricardo Ramos, that fight was what it was. And then you had Jack Hermanson coming back to be Emir Shabazian. So yeah, I think it was a solid B plus, maybe even A minus. It was a solid card, and it showed a lot of moving pieces that could be made in the UFC in certain divisions. So yeah, that'll be my grade for the card. Again, I would love to see where Cody Garbrandt goes from here. For Rob Font, he's going straight to the moon, possibly getting a title shot next. So, but yeah, that is my UFC Vegas 27 recap. I am sweating bullets right now, man. It's so hot. You could probably see the sweat just right there. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, it was a solid card. It was a solid card. Solid weekend. You had Bellator. You had UFC putting on both solid fights. There's going to be a break next week. No fights, I believe. We're not going to do a show next Sunday. You guys, it's Memorial Day weekend. You guys, I hope you guys are going to enjoy yourselves. Stay safe. Have fun, enjoy yourselves. Especially in New York. I'm gonna hang out with family and stuff like that. Now vaccinated, not fully vaccinated. I'm gonna do that. But yeah, you guys, we'll be back June 6th to recap the Augusta Sakai versus Jesse Rosenstruck fight, and then we got the pay-per-view the following week. So take a week off, and then we're back to it. June 6th. So yeah. But yeah, again, subscribe, share, like. Please let me know what you think of the show. This is my second time doing this solo, which I'm slowly but surely getting used to and trying to adapt and get better at doing this solo. But yeah, thank you guys. I hope you guys have a good night. Hope you watch this on VOD. Again, like, share, subscribe, and we will see you June 6th. Have a nice Memorial weekend. And good night.